Welcome to the Well Life Podcast, where we discuss our holistic approach to wellness and connect with experts across what we have defined as the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Yeah, today our guest is Lizzy, the owner of Lift with Lizzy. She's helping women ditch the diet and fall in love with their fitness lifestyle for good.
Thanks for joining us today, Lizzy.
Thank you for having me.
We all connected. I know I connected with you kind of a couple of years ago during COVID. TJ, prior to that, happy to have you on today.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I'm so excited to be here. It's like full circle for me right
Yeah,
now.
I remember, just to give a briefing, I remember during COVID, when all gyms kind of went to hell and everything closed down, and you were training, not independently, you were training for corporate, at another place, and you took the leap, and we kind of filmed a couple things, but bought that online training kind of guideline to kind of just see what it was about. And I know you were serious about it. So I remember us just chatting back and forth, and I was like, go for it. And you did it. It's wild.
Yeah.
So now you have the business, for
Really,
yourself.
Good point. I know we literally just talked about, hey, what are we kind of first going to start the podcast
Yeah.
with? But let's not go to that first. Let's kind of talk about you, right? Intro yourself, kind of what you do now, how you pivoted during COVID, or kind of how you transitioned into how you're working today with Lift with Lizzy.
Yeah, so I started working as an in-person personal trainer back in 2017, I believe. And, it was great until COVID happened, right? All the gyms closed. And as you guys know, as personal trainers yourself, we were like, okay, now what? We literally can't train our clients. We can't go to the gym. What do we do? So it was sort of like a blessing in disguise for me. I took the chance. I started my own online health and fitness coaching business. And 3 years later, here we are, helping over 500 women change their lifestyles. And, it's been a blessing in disguise for, COVID happening for me. I know that's not the case for everybody, but it was for me.
No, definitely. I think that just, some people had to be advantageous of the situation, right? So you're working in this industry, gyms are shut down, or what are you going to do? You can either not do anything or try to pivot, right, and kind of take advantage, or just make it an opportunity time for you. Also, it's not just an opportunity for you. I think that everyone on the opposite side of that was looking for something, right? They needed fitness. They wanted to still be able to stay in a regimen. They wanted to train. So you just were able to provide that. I think some people miss that mark. Yeah. So congrats to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, it was good.
So, we wanted to ask, we always like to start off with our guest. First and foremost, what's wellness to you, right? Personally, it can be how you apply anything in your daily life, how you think of certain things, right? But how would you define wellness to you, personal wellness?
That's a great question. Wellness to me, when I think about wellness, I think of the mental and physical state of somebody throughout their lifetime, right? You want to, feel good both mentally and physically, and your physical and mental health definitely go hand in hand, right? So when you're not showing up for yourself, when you're not feeling confident, when you're not feeling strong, that takes a hit on your wellness, just your overall well-being. So I think a lot of it has to do with your nutrition. A lot of it has to do with your training. It has a lot to do with showing up for yourself all day, every day, even when you don't want to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So those are great points. I think that falls in line with the holistic approach that we talk about here, and kind of how we define wellness. But how about, what's your approach first? I think we'll talk about how you talk about that with clients. But for you, how do you kind of take care of yourself from a wellness standpoint?
Yeah. So, do you want me to go into how I started within my own fitness journey?
Let's go deep.
What made you get to you, right? Lift with Lizzy, right?
And then what optimized you, right?
Yeah.
So it got you to a point. Then how do you know, okay, how am I as Lizzy the best I can be every day? Right. Be it sleeping well or drinking well.
Right. It literally is. It is those small. It is those small things, right? This sleeping, this hydrating, right? But for me, growing up in Long Island, all the kids in high school, they're all good at sports, right? If you're not good at sports, then what do you do? I was one of those people. I was not great at sports, so I had to find something else to do, and I found the gym, and I fell in love with strength training at a young age. I think I was 15 years old. I was at 28 now, so over 10 years now that I've been doing this. And personally, it's changed my life. I remember when I first started my health and fitness journey, it was more of a restrictive approach, because, when you go on bodybuilding.com, right? Everyone used to start there, I feel like, and you would have to follow all of these crazy plans that people who compete use, right? Restrictive dieting, working out 6-7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And that just was not it for me. You know, over time, you get burnt out, you don't feel that great. So I wanted to find a different approach that was more sustainable, more flexible, and that's sort of where it brought me to where I'm at today and what I do for other women. It's help them find that balance within their lifestyle when it comes to their nutrition, their fitness, but also like their own self-care and their personal life as well.
Cool. So I guess with that, what are your best kind of wellness routines that you do?
So I think number one thing that I really love and that I really try to get all of my clients to do is like when you wake up in the morning, get outside, go for a walk. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, a little bit goes such a long way. For me, especially, I find the days that I don't start my day with a walk, I feel more stressed, I feel more anxious, and I feel like I'm procrastinating most of the day anyway. So I don't know, what are some things that you guys like to do for your own wellness? Do you guys like to start your day with a walk, or do you guys start your day in a different way?
Yeah, I think for me, right, being still training, right, physically and getting up and having like kind of those sessions run my morning and my life for the most part. I think it's making sure I get up and just have 10 minutes to breathe for a second before I hop in the shower and get up to go, right? But I think it's still, I'm automatically thrown into it just because my brain is already going, right, for like, okay, cool, I've gotten pretty good at just saying like, nope, we're here. Boom, we're in it, right? I could come in and you feel groggy and tired, but you're already in talking to somebody, laying someone else's session out and doing something else and figuring out how to plan that and make sure, right? I think it starts with the kind of the night before, you know, as limited as time can be in the middle of either, right, trying to find food to eat, get your bedtime routine going, get set up for the next day. It's just like, whether it's not like physically laying an outfit out, it's just putting a couple points mentally together, right? Having, right, your idea, knowing, right, what your morning the next day is going to look like. Having an outfit for that 4:30 workout the next day because you know that you have sessions, classes, content from 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Yeah, preparation.
Right? So it's just
setting
preparation.
yourself up for success.
Yeah,
That's
I
a huge thing. Like the morning routine, the evening routines, right? Like planning ahead is really the key to success. Like if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's something that I teach my clients all the time, right? Because your health and fitness is not just something that you can wing. You really need to like educate yourself and learn about these things and plan ahead of time and think ahead to set yourself up for that success. And that goes to say, like, your health and fitness is not just something you do for a short amount of time. It's something that you literally are going to do from like today till the day that you die, right?
100%.
I think that's what we try to talk about a lot is how, that's why we ask about kind of this definition of wellness, right? What's wellness mean to someone? Because when we see wellness, it's not this one-off visit to a spa. It's not one workout. It's not one walk in a park or something, right? It is this lifelong activities that you're doing that are going to help you optimize your well-being. So it's what are you doing every day? What plan do you have in place to help you move better, to help you eat better, to help you hydrate? That's what we need to have in place in order to optimize our well-being kind of for our entire life.
Absolutely.
It's not going to, it's ever changing, but you kind of have to come back to that plan and ensure it's in place forever.
Yeah, and that's why I like love what you guys did here, because it really is like, you know, like the full part of like a healthy lifestyle, you know. It's not just the training, it's not just the nutrition. You guys are really helping everyone do more than that, you know. But that's the type of women that we really want to work with, are those who are looking for that long-term lifestyle change. You know, when I talk to someone, you know, of course I ask them what their goals are, I ask them what their challenges are, but at the end of the day, I'm like, are you looking to make a long-term lifestyle change, or are you looking for a quick fix? Because if you're looking for a quick fix, this is not a good fit for us, you know?
Love that. I just saw or heard a statistic today, right, that most people, or I'll give the number, but 90% of people that start a fitness journey fail. Right? And a lot of that is, right, they're not working with a good, dedicated trainer. They're probably trying to do it themselves. They're not going to a program. They don't have the plan in place to help them succeed. But it's hard, right? So you don't have the accountability. You're not working with Lizzy. You're not working with TJ, right? You're not doing these things. You don't have that trainer or coach to fall back on to kind of keep you accountable. You're not going to, it's hard. It's easy to fall off because it is hard.
I feel like they also think of it as a fitness journey. It's its own entity, and you're either in it or out of it, right? It becomes like that, either obsessive or it's like I have to be there and doing it all the time, where it's like, no, it's just something you adopt into your life, and you're just physically working, mentally working, right, energetically working to be in a better spot throughout the day. Eat a little bit better, get a little bit more movement in, right? Do more until, you know, a year out, you've dropped whatever amount of weight, or you've gained whatever amount of weight, you've gotten this much stronger, you've done this, and then the whole life has changed with all those intangibles and tangibles that you've put into place. And then it's like, it's crazy how it all happens without some people realizing it, rather than if you push it off, right? And kind of live against it. But I was actually going to ask you, next question was, right, you have such a cool way of preaching balance, right? Your Instagram stories always stuck out to me with, right, you line the days up, you have your daily stories, but it's like, oh, protein in the coffee, right? All these easy little tips, and then having, okay, hey, I'm eating a bowl of honeycomb at night, or something. Not that exactly, but like a slice of pizza. Be like, you got
a brownie.
Got this fitting in for my thing today. I had this many carbs left for my thing, right? You were a big macros person, and someone that doesn't. You don't just eat crap and to fulfill the macros. You eat nutrient dense food, right? But I wanted to kind of hit on that, right? How have you found yourself coaching these people on their own kind of individual, like, physical wellness and nutrition and workouts, without being either too harsh on the agenda to pull them from what they're doing, right, and let them know that it's okay? Is there any approach that you use, or just give me some tidbits on that whole topic, kind of, you know?
Yeah, well, let me first start by saying most people have this all or nothing mentality when it comes to their health and fitness. You know, they're either all in or they're all out, and the reason why is because they're following such restrictive plans where they can't enjoy their favorite foods. You know, if they go out to a social outing, like, you know, happy hour with friends or date night with their boyfriend or girlfriend, like, they get stressed and they feel guilty afterwards, right? So that's where the majority of people are. They're stuck in this all or nothing mentality with their health and fitness, where we really need to work on mindset with a lot of our clients, right? We have to teach them that balance, that more flexible approach, and that lifestyle approach that is gonna last long term. So in terms of nutrition, right? Like, we don't give our clients meal plans per se, but we teach them, you know, the 80-20 rule, right? So that means like 80% of your nutrition, 80% of your food's gonna come from more nutrient dense whole foods, right? Like fruits, vegetables, protein, things like that. Whereas the other 20%, like, yeah, you can have the pizza, you can have the cookies, you can have the ice cream. You want a glass of wine? Cool. You can make that fit. And that's the beautiful thing about macros, which you brought up before.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, right, macros, just simple carbs, proteins, and fats, right? So she does a great job of kind of allocating that for her clientele to bring them to a lifestyle that they're not so restrictive on, right? So yeah, that's a huge part. It's a huge part.
Just leads itself to kind of balance, which is kind of what you preach overall, right? Is this balance in your life, now balance in your nutrition, balance in your workouts.
Yep. I mean, that's this. I show people like what I do, right? Like, how do I make this a sustainable part of my life, right? Like, I'm teaching them the same guidelines that I use for myself. So, you know, in terms of training, like, most people think they have to work out 7 days per week, right? Whereas 3 days a week is just as optimal. And most people don't have the time in their schedule to work out 7 days per week, and they can't stay consistent with that, so they get discouraged, right? So most of our clients work out 3 or 4 days per week and get great results. You know, you don't have to overdo it, and I think most people think that you have to do all of the things, when each week, just try to get at least 1% better. Like, that's what it really comes down to. And like how you mentioned earlier, like, you start small, you meet someone where they're at, and by the end of the year, they have a whole new lifestyle, they have a whole new physique, right? A whole new mindset too. And that's the beautiful part about coaching.
Yeah,
that's great. How often are you or your coaches meeting with your clients, kind of to do accountability, to check in?
Yeah, so
real quick before that, give us an intro to, like, how many coaches do you have, right? How kind of big is your online training business before you go into that, just to give like a perspective on it's been 3 years, almost 3 years exactly.
Kind of what you built over those 3 years.
Well, it started out with just me and only me wearing all of the hats, doing all of the things. But over time, it became too much. So I had to start looking for outside help. So I hired my first assistant coach over a year ago. I think it was January that I hired her, last January. And then I hired my second assistant coach back in August. And I just hired my third assistant coach literally last week. So we are growing very rapidly. Like I said, we've been able to help over 500 women at this point over the last 3 years. And, you know, people are continuously joining, and it's a blessing. Like, nothing like warms my heart more than like helping a woman like build that confidence and strength and inside and out. So 3 assistant coaches, myself. What was the other question that you asked?
Just kind of the typical program you have for them. So how are you checking in with them?
Right.
You or the coaches?
Yeah. So all of our clients have 24/7 text access to us. So we're talking to our clients multiple times throughout the week. But when it comes to like their one-on-one check-in, we do that on a once-a-week basis. Right. So it's much more comprehensive, right? We're reviewing their progress, both mentally and physically. We're reviewing their adherence to their training and nutrition protocols, which are completely tailored to their needs and their lifestyle specifically. We are reviewing, their biofeedback, so like their digestion, their hunger, their stress, their energy, and giving them full feedback on a weekly basis on the things that they're doing really well, like keep going, keep doing it. But we also need to talk about the things that need to be worked on and how we're actually going to improve those things and what things do we need to tweak to get at least, again, 1% better in the next upcoming week. So they always have a blueprint for what they need to do, and they have that support and accountability 7 days throughout the week, which, sets us apart from other programs out there, I feel.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I want to get into a little, right, as we talk about kind of the training, how you're meeting with your clients, a little bit of like how do we program, right? We're big on the strength training aspect here. We believe that should be the foundation of training. You may have a whole different belief, but I think that you don't. You kind of fall in line with that. I know you don't. Yeah, I know you don't. You fall in line there.
Yeah, bro lifting back.
Yeah, and obviously, like you just stated, right? You built your foundation kind of in the gym, right? All strength training. There's always this conversation of women doing strength training, getting bulky. How much should they be doing? We have to kind of combat that in our gym too, a bunch on. No, you're not going to grow the biggest arms in the gym just by doing. Yeah, exactly.
I wish.
That easy.
Yeah, right.
So how do you talk to your women kind of about strength training, about implementing it if they've never done it before? Just kind of how you put it in their program.
That's a great question, and I think that's so important to talk about because what year is it? 2023? Yeah. Women are still afraid of looking bulky and manly. Like, I've been strength training for over 10 years and I still don't look the way I want to look. Yeah. I'm always wanting to build more and more muscle. It's very hard to build muscle, okay? And, women obviously have different hormones in their body than men do. We're not just going to look like, Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight. You know what I mean?
And like to put on the point of that, it's like guys won't look like Arnold overnight either. Exactly. Right? It's like women, you're not going to get bulky. And like guys, it would be very hard for you to get bulky and put on that much muscle. So
it's hard for everybody. Help, right? Yeah. Testosterone, a little bit of different steroids, stuff like that, right? For that, for a guy. So it's like.
Exactly. We don't do none of that over here. But, we have a lot of women who have never lifted weights in their entire life, and they are afraid of looking bulky or manly or gaining too much muscle. And I'm like, listen, like, I think they just need to start and they need to see it for themselves and they need to trust the process. And that's what makes a good client. Like, they trust the process and, they allow you to guide them in the right direction, but it definitely does come up for sure.
Yeah. A couple of things there, right? We can talk a little more about it, but I think that's trusting the process, right? That's just testament to you and your coaches, right? Because people have to believe and have faith that you are trying to guide them in the right way, that they feel comfortable with you in order to kind of take your advice. Right, so it's kind of being able to break that wall down, saying, lead them more from where they are at, right, and then build them up from there. But they've got to trust you first. So being able to build that confidence is kind of the first factor for any coach that's watching, right? Is how do you get people to trust you, but because you're trying to give them the best of yourself, not just because you're trying to kind of get some money from them.
Exactly. I think building rapport is really important. Building a personal connection with your clients is really important. It's not surface level stuff. Like, I get on consult calls with women all the time who cry. Yeah. Like, your health and fitness is a very personal and touchy subject for a lot of people. So, I find that, I'm pretty chill. Like, I ask people all the time, like, you're nervous to be here? They're like, yeah, but now that I talk to you, like, I'm not, I'm like, thanks. Like, okay, good. So I like to think I make people feel comfortable because, again, it is a very, like, touchy subject for a lot of women. But yeah, building that connection and getting to know your clients, I think, is really important. And you do that, when you first have that first conversation with them. But over time, and we work with our clients long term. Most of our clients work with us for 12 to 18 months, sometimes longer.
It's sometimes hard to do online, right?
In person.
Yeah. In person, it's difficult to reach, right?
Yeah.
People also, you see them 5 times a week, some people, right? And I can't imagine how hard it is. But I was going to take a step back and ask you more personally, right? Talk about, right, eating macros, balance, right? You go out and have drinks on the weekends. You're eating pizza. You're eating the cereal. You're doing, right?
He's like, I don't know why. He's like the brownies, the cupcakes, the Twinkies.
Yeah. All you eat is ice cream. But that's such a huge part of enjoying life, living life, being able to do that and know that it's okay, right? And taking a step back. But I wanted to ask personally, right? Were there any points in your life you could talk about from before lifting, right? Not being athletic to before lifting, going into your whole thing and not really training for anything specifically besides getting in shape can be such a toxic thing for people.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone, men and women, right? There can be such a weird mental fight that people go
I've
through.
been there, yeah.
Right? Were there any specific points, turning points, big highlights, pivotal points in your life that led you to, let alone, turn to oh, you know what, I'm just going to kind of count some of my macros and I can keep a balance within that box, right? But were there any other points, right, that you kind of were, you had to go through, any specific personal points?
When I first started, I wanted to compete. I wanted to, do something like that.
Go,
That's what I thought
all the
was,
way.
cool,
Yeah.
right? But then over time, you realize that's not truly what you want. I love food. I love to eat. I'm a big foodie. If there was a donut right in front of me, I'd probably eat it right now. You know what I mean? But that's just it. The competition world is not something that is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for some people, but for the average person, that's not something that's long term, right? And that doesn't need to be your goal. If it is your goal, cool, great. But if it's not, that's okay too.
It can be a cool achievement.
Exactly,
A cool
exactly.
test and
But
everything.
hard to maintain for a long
Hard
time.
to maintain, yeah. So I remember when I hired a coach to guide me through that, and he put me on this meal plan that was I don't even want to tell you guys what was on it because there was no carbs. Literally I was eating egg whites and tilapia and asparagus for every meal, and I was no, I'm done. I can't do this. He had me doing cardio twice a day, every day. And I lost a lot of weight, but my body composition was not where it needed to be at all. And I was what's going on here? And then that's sort of when I started looking into macros and more sustainable, ways to go about my health and fitness. So that was a life-changing thing for me.
It's tough, right? Because you have to have, I feel as coaches, that conversation with some people because they feel in order to lose weight, I have to go on that. I have to go on a diet.
Yeah.
And I have to eat tilapia and nothing, right, for my entire
it.
life. And that's the only way I'm going to be able to wear a bikini next summer.
Again, it's that outside thing that it's you feel you have to be in there.
Because that's what diet culture does, right? You go on Google and you search how to lose weight. That's what they're going to tell you to do. That you have to cut carbs, you have to cut sugar, you have to do X, Y, and Z, things that are going to make you miserable at the end of the day. And on top of that, you're going to have no energy.
Right? How do you maintain that, right?
Exactly.
So, maybe you did it for 4 weeks and you lost a couple pounds. You feel terrible. You're not sleeping well. Your workouts are terrible as well. And now where do you go? Right, you're gonna
go
right
back.
exactly to where you were before because you can't maintain that lifestyle.
Yep.
And that's why people will lose 30 pounds, but then gain it back plus some, especially people who do keto, right? I'm not a big keto person. I know that some people love that. But personally, I don't think it's sustainable. And, people will lose a lot of weight, doing keto or any other type of fad diet. And then
a lot of conversations.
exactly, yeah. And then they haven't actually learned anything, any new habits, healthier habits, and they didn't actually take the time to change their lifestyle. So what happens is when they're done with that diet, they wind up going back to their old habits and then gain that weight back, right? And they get frustrated. And that's that all or nothing cycle that so many people are stuck in.
I think that we and I know personally, I like to have this conversation with someone if we're talking nutrition first and you've done nothing, or maybe you tried keto or you're thinking about a diet that for you to be on. The first thing is kind of saying, all right, don't think about what I want to take out of this diet. How do I add something, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to add more water and I want you to add more protein tomorrow, right? And then we'll see where you are in a couple of weeks, right? Because now you're drinking more water, you're more hydrated, you're also eating more protein, so you're probably not able to eat some of the other snacks, things that you were having, and then we'll see where we're at.
Yep.
And then, right, let's just sustain a better diet, putting better stuff in your body first, and then take out once we've kind of established a good routine.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's not about taking things away, it's about adding things in.
Yeah, love that.
I love that too. That was really good. Yeah.
Couple specific tips. Any tips that you can give for our viewers or anyone listening, right? On, I know, the protein coffee or sneaking certain things in, right? Making things out of Greek yogurt or certain, right, as a base instead of other products, right? Is there any tips that you can give that do you have 5 different diet tips kind of in your back pocket that you'd kind of throw out to a client typically, or right, what are the most common things you kind of throw out to people, either to add more protein, right, drink more water, or are there any cool core things that you kind of throw out there?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I see most people struggle with is meal planning. Like nutrition tends to be the hardest part for most people, and they tend to overthink it, right? I used to do that same thing as well. And the thing is like we were saying earlier, like you have to plan ahead to set yourself up for success. So like when you go to the grocery store, have a grocery list. Don't just go in there blindsided, right? Because
Especially if you're hungry.
exactly. Oh my gosh, that's not fun at all. I've done that a few times. It's never good. But have a grocery list, and on that grocery list, you should have protein sources, vegetables, fruits, and carbohydrates, right? Like you need to have these things laid out for you, and then use those different sources, the protein, the carbs, the fats, and throw together a balanced meal. Having balanced meals throughout the day is what's going to give you energy, good strength. It's going to help with your hormonal health, your metabolism. So always have a plan with your nutrition. Don't wing it. I think that's the most important thing.
Cool. Oh, love it. Yeah. I think I had one more question. I'm blanking out on what it was.
So I know we said, right, and come back to it if you have it.
I got to grab it.
As we kind of bring it together, we asked about what are you great at with wellness, right? But like, what do you think you're not good at? Right. I think that we try to touch on that with ourselves too. We
only choose one of those things.
Yeah. You don't have to list them all, but it's like, all right, what are you working on for you, right? Because we're not, right? We're not perfect. We're not invincible, right? We're just trying our best every day with our clients as well. It's like, what do you think that, not that you struggle with, but it's like, all right, I know that's the thing I need to kind of be better at.
Hey, coaches struggle too. And by the way, coaches need coaches. Like I work with a coach. All my assistant coaches have a coach. Like the most successful people always have a mentor, right? And nobody is perfect. So I'll never say that I know everything or that I'm perfect, but right now I'm trying to be in a cut, right? And it's the weekends, it's summertime. I want to have some drinks. I want to have a little bit more fun, right? Have a little more flexibility with my foods that I'm eating. So some weekends, again, like maybe I'm not as consistent as I would hope to be, but we're all human, right? But at least I'm aware of that and can dial things back when need be. Right.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Got my question back. Yeah. So I was going to go back and say, right, for you with this business, building it, right, got the 3 coaches, got some of the salespeople working for you, right, doing your thing. What's next? Is there anything next for you in the step, right? Is it hiring another coach? Just out of curiosity, this is more of a personal question.
So that's a great question. If you asked me 3 years ago where I'd be today, I really wouldn't think that I'd be where I am, to be honest.
From doing like 150 cold Facebook messages a day, like sitting there.
But that's really what helped me get to where I am. Now we have a totally different approach. I won't get into that today. But I always thought that I maybe wanted to like scale to the moon, right? We all want to scale to the moon, but I want to keep things small. I want to keep things personal. I don't need 500 clients on our roster.
Quality.
Yeah, quality over quantity. Goal is to just help as many women as we possibly can, and possibly hire maybe a 4th assistant coach down the line. We'll see. But right now we're doing pretty well, pretty comfortable. So who knows?
Cool. Love that.
Lizzy,
awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
we appreciate it. Congratulations, right? We love to hear the way that you're working with all these women. I think it's it's a very good subset in the market. Women, actually our biggest group in the gym are women. I think they're the most apt to join a class.
100%.
But sometimes it's hard to get them into, right? They may be busy, maybe doing some other things. Hard to get them into the schedule, get them moving. But we appreciate everything you're doing, right? And just in the fitness industry. But thank you, right? Thank you for joining us today. Thank you guys for joining another episode of the Well Life Podcast. We hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.